Bakır dargam sandu şermer doğur tomba tücce canla gişam zar dilandırın divşemizi pandır tati şemba çimbole manyem bagur nyangce çimbo maptan vago lhapib samba yang tabır zipi tamçın kimbi sim mıvcit bago semçin tamçıdı yongsur mımbır şepala mırkyo bago devi yongu bo mıhton vago dambi chu yongsu zongvi shirde lidan hchung durwa go gewi sawa tagla chukmashi bago yongsu hunguwa kebala gopa go chun sorwa la lelo me bago chu damba la lohon huim kitmeshe bago devjang shakba la tawa dam chopi ngubo la zomba go sam jinder kewe machak bago sam jinder kewe machak bago puzum tsokba dam rgpa tagla makang mandat bago Mahlubar namlagan, Mavnivjan, Lobar namlagan, Stumbar tarda Pamar Sembago, Nyumumbar Gibar nam, Surjanda Nevrib Shopago, Wembala Gajan, Tela Machakbago, Dakab Devala Majanjan, Parur, Devala Jimbago, Santandan Tanganzanda, Numbrunjibam Narme Partada Shibago. Kora Kipmu Sardan Nyangan Lende Bartavar Shibago, Longar Namlan Tabak Give Shianin the Shibago, Doba Tamchid Yonsu, Tonga, Tamchid Kimbanya, Zobership in the Shivo, Satum Chara Namla Kiaps, the Kapran the Shibago, Parod of Shimbar Namla Pamran the Shibago, Shanchip Jip Chokji Chur Namla, Dagbo Yogdan the Shibago, Give Savi Chu Tamchid, Chok Meshi Shang, Santi Jang Tamchid Yondan Duck.
It's rather short today, isn't it? Maybe we'll finish class very soon because there's nothing to talk about. Maybe. Maybe we don't need an hour. Therefore, I really hope that people in the shrine hall, you don't come and go all the time, and please turn off your cell phone. Otherwise, it will disturb others. Let's now aspire for the bodhicitta for all sentient beings. Today, let's continue with the classes on Vimalakirti Sutra. Vimalakirti Sutra, I don't know exactly how many classes are left, but I'm sure it's not much left. In the Tibetan text, those are the ones that we already finished, and these are the texts that's left for us to learn. It's not that much, isn't it? So compare this one to the other. So for the rest of the text, I really hope that you could finish it well. You should complete it. Whatever you do, you should start well and then end well and complete everything so that for your lifetimes, it is good for your practice and good for your aspiration. Whatever you do, in fact, I know that there are people who give up halfway through. It is mostly because when you practice before, in your previous lives, you give up halfway through, and this is connected to that causes and conditions, the seed that you planted before. When you go out, when you travel, I think you should really attach great importance, even if you're not at home. Because if you attach great importance, then you won't be able to forget. You would still remember. Let's just think about all the important things that is in your life. You don't forget them easily. Out of all conditions, I think if you attach great importance, then you would listen to all the transmissions, oral transmissions and teachings. But recently I heard that there are people who skip the Tantra classes even. I think that's probably because you don't attach great importance. You don't take the Dharma classes seriously, and you only think of this as ordinary classes in this world. It's okay if you don't study it, but if you are committed to study it already, then it is the best to then take it seriously. So complete the whole class and carefully listen to all the classes. Once you have a habit, it's very difficult to correct it, isn't it? Even in mundane life, you experience that once you have a habit, then it's very difficult to change it. And don't even mention when it comes to transmundane Dharma classes. People often take that habits are the truth. Your habitual patterns, your habitual thinkings are the truth of this world. In fact, that is not reasonable. That's not a reasonable way of contemplating. So, in listening to class and studying, I really hope that you could correct some of your bad habits from before and your fixations so that it will help you to progress along the path. Last time we talked about how a bodhisattva should neither exhaust the conditions nor abide in the unconditioned. The bodhisattvas from fragrance accumulation mind land, they came to the Saha world, and then Buddha taught them the Dharma of exhaustible and inexhaustible. During our learning of the Dharma, I think it's quite important to maintain the lineage of the Dharma and infuse your mind with the Dharma. Let your mind be with the Dharma and be one with the Dharma. Otherwise, you may spend lots of time, but Dharma is not in you. In that way, you will become jaded practitioners. Then you'll create lots of negative karma for yourself. If that's the case, then it's probably better for you not to start learning the Dharma to start with. To study Dharma, for some people, it's merit. For some people, it is causing them harm. So there are some differences. Over here, we're going to talk about what is exhaustible and inexhaustible. What is neither exhaust the conditions, the conditioned, nor abide in the unconditioned. This is quite important. Once you understand this, then you will receive great benefits from this teaching. If you don't understand the meaning of the Dharma, maybe you study and practice the Dharma every day, but your mind stream will still become so solid and so fixed and not tamed at all. In that way, it's quite a pity, very much ashamed. So, what is it not to exhaust the conditioned? In mundane world, there are many dharmas. In mundane world, the dharma that appears, manifests, like dreams and illusions. We should not give up and forsake this kind of illusory phenomena. According to Master Kuiji, he counted with the Tang Dynasty's, the Xuanzang's translation, there are 55 conditioned dharmas. Some other masters didn't really categorize it like that. And some, they categorize it differently than the texts that's translated from the Tang Dynasty. So some of the area we will then explain it in the way that it's like the Tang Dynasty, and in some of them we will explain it according to other Dharma teachers. Yesterday I couldn't remember how I should explain the aged person. It's not that they are not like anyone or they're not good to look at. So I hope that you do not bring up such harmful terms.
我的像样子就是属于怎么别人都不像样子，这样说对吧？你太那个了，好吧
？It's very harmful. It's very hurting for people who are aging.
这样的，所以我们这个我的
So according to my categorization,
那下面我们就分就是分的话呢，按照轨迹那样分的话
we will categorize it according to different masters. Some according to Master Kuiji, some according to Master Huiyuan. Some of the good, some of the virtuous deeds or the activities are performed or conducted by the bodhisattvas before Bhumi, and some are after they attained Bhumi. So, what is not to exhaust the conditions? The first one is that it is neither to transcend great sympathy nor to forsake a great compassion. Do not give up your great compassion and great sympathy. The compassion that we usually talk about in our world, in our habitual point of view, we see that the animals, the human beings, they have love and compassion towards their relatives and friends. But the great compassion that we're talking about over here is the great compassion of bodhisattvas. In fact, this kind of understanding has transcended the understanding of our habitual thinking. The great compassion of bodhisattvas, they have their love and compassion and sympathy towards beings who are even the people who have great hatreds towards them, who would harm them. And that kind of great compassion has transcended our habitual pattern of understanding of compassion and love. But this kind of great compassion could lead us to liberation. When we talk about bodhicitta, we often talk about the love towards all sentient beings equally. In the treatise of entering into Mahayana path, it says that the suffering of cyclic existence is ceaseless and endless. Thus, bodhisattvas should enter into nirvana, yet out of power of great compassion, bodhisattvas remain long in samsara without forsaking living beings. They will abide in samsara and continuously to benefit and lead sentient beings to liberation. I think majority of people, when they think about liberating all sentient beings, people say that this is too vague. This term of liberating all beings, benefiting all beings, is too vague. I don't think so. I wouldn't agree with that, because even for worldly beings, at first they would have a goal, they would have an ideal to pursue for, such as, oh, I want to be an artist, I want to be a pilot. And before they do that, so there's no such specific thing of being an artist or being a pilot. Similarly, if you have already give rise to bodhicitta or took the bodhisattva vow, then you should make such aspiration of liberating all sentient beings. It is a goal. It is the ideal of what you aspired for. And then the second one, it talks about to profoundly generate the aspiration to achieve omniscience and never forget it even momentarily. To wish for omniscience for all the sentient beings, and never forget it from the beginning, during the middle, and at the end. unlike us who may remember at the beginning but not during the conduct of such. In the Han Buddhism, we talk about how a practitioner should pursue the path of Buddhahood and liberating sentient beings. And these are the two criteria of a bodhisattva. To pursue for the path of Buddhahood talks about wisdom, and benefiting sentient beings talks about compassion. We should not look for small benefit of only pursuing for celestial enjoyment for ourselves. We should make great aspiration of benefiting all sentient beings. The third one is to teach sentient beings without ever being tired. During the course of liberating sentient beings or helping sentient beings, we may feel tired. I think this is quite common because it's very difficult to help sentient beings. Sometimes living with sentient beings is very difficult as well. Because every sentient being has very different habitual patterns, and if you have a rather narrow mind, it's very difficult to get along with the sentient beings, even living with this kind of sentient beings who are friends. You constantly would ask for, I need my own room, my own space. If you never really had a deep experience in society, then you probably don't know that how different sentient beings has different habitual patterns. But over here we talk about how sentient beings that we should help who have very different habitual patterns and different tendencies. It could be very difficult. You may have made the aspiration, oh, I want to liberate all sentient beings. Let's look at Shariputra, who offered his own eyes to a person who needed eyes, but then the other person rejected it. Not only rejected it, stepped on his eyes and saying that your eyes are ugly, I don't want it. So at that moment, he also had the mind of feeling tired. Similarly, sentient beings could do lots of things that creates lots of harm and create lots of obstacles which could cause you to feel tired. A little while ago, we had a little research that we did in Larungar, and we asked, what would you like to do after studying? And the majority of them said that they just want to practice and finish their nondro, and they want to practice the Tantrayana practices. And it's very saddened. I was feeling really saddened at that time. Not many of them wanted to go out and help sentient beings in the society, in the real world. But especially in the female section. The male section is a little better, but maybe because they know the real world, they know the real market of teaching. They know that not many people have faith and devotion, and maybe they know that because the world is so chaotic, And like a whirlpool, they may then drown into this mundane world and get influenced instead of helping themselves. Maybe they had experienced in this society for many, many years and felt really confused in such a society for many, many years. And now they've already found the Dharma. They feel that they're not mature enough to help others. I think, honestly, speaking from my heart, I feel this kind of mentality is very weak. After studying so many years of Mahayana teachings, after studying the 5 treatises, I really think it is a good time to go to the mainland area and to teach the people over there about the Dharma and about the traditional teachings and so on. The middle school that I founded, till now, there are already 800 graduates. And all the graduates are disseminated everywhere in this society. Similarly, after you graduated from this Buddhist academy, you should also go out and spread the Dharma, spread the teaching. So I really encourage you to strengthen your heart and your mind and go out into the real world to help the sentient beings, to help the people out there. If you only study a little bit, yes. If your knowledge is not enough, well, it's understandable. You still need to study. But for those of you who studied enough, who studied a lot, then you can go out and get into the real world and help the people who needed the help. There will be lots of obstacles. There will be hardships. Let's just look at the biographies of the past masters. But we should understand that as Mahayana practitioners, we have such duty to spread the Dharma. We should not feel tired of it. The 4th one talks about to be constant mindful of following the teaching of the 4 attractions. During our dissemination of the Dharma, during our the time of us trying to benefit others, we should practice the 4 attractions. And then the Dharma or the skillful means of 4 attractions are like the kind of skillful means of attracting and of benefiting, of magnetizing sentient beings. So you can benefit others, you can then offer to others, give to others, work with others. These are the ways of helping sentient beings. The 5th one, it is to defend and uphold the correct Dharma without fear for one's own life. We need to uphold, we need to disseminate, and we need to defend the correct Dharma without worrying for our own life. Pongso Rinpoche, in one of his dohas, he said, during the process of disseminating the Dharma and benefiting sentient beings, I've never considered for my own life. I can't remember which doha it is. So he never thought about his health, his life, without caring about himself at all, and tried his best to defend and uphold the Dharma. There's a book. It's called The Buddha Works in Dream. It is a teaching I give in Xiamen, in the city of Xiamen, southern China. And in that lecture, I talked about what is protecting the Dharma, what is the correct Dharma to protect, and what are the kind of Bodhigala or people who should protect the Dharma. And I talked quite extensively about that. Everyone has the responsibility to protect the Dharma. Do not belittle yourself and think that I'm just a mundane being. How can I protect the Dharma? I don't have the kind of energy. I don't have such kind of power to protect the Dharma. But for those of you who've already entered the door of the correct Dharma, you have the responsibility to protect the truth, isn't it? So when we talked about Dharma protectors, I went to a small monastery in Sichuan province, and they wear this badge on their arm saying Dharma protector. And they hold a stick in their hands. For people who don't listen to them, they would hit them with the stick. I said, aren't you protecting the Dharma? You are hurting sentient beings. How is it protecting the Dharma then? There's someone who, without a good eye, and he said that, well, okay, we had a good conversation, but I'm not going to share over here due to the lack of time. So, Dharma protector, there are Dharma protectors who are the lay practitioners, who are the group of lay practitioners. And over here in the Tibetan version, it says that uphold and defend. What is to defend the Dharma? In fact, it's not only to protect. It is to study and contemplate the Dharma. We're not really on the external form that we have the army to protect something. It's not like that. To protect the Dharma, it is to have Dharma in their heart, in their mind. And once you have that, the Dharma, the correct Dharma, will be able to continuously spread in this world. So that is protecting and defending the Dharma. So that's also a way, by taking exams, by studying and contemplating the Dharma. Recently, we've been taking exams, both in Larangar and in different Sangha groups elsewhere. I know there are people who didn't do well in the exam, and for some people who didn't really take any exams. Some may did not get any good marks, and that's okay. You tried your best. But what I notice is that there are people who's not under any stress at all. They've been snacking in the exams. I was walking around in different classes. The first time, he was eating, and the second round I took, he was eating, and the third time I took the round, he was napping. He was dozing off. So that's not protecting the Dharma. The sixth one is to plant good roots without becoming fatigued, become tired. Planting good roots. There are different types of planting good roots, such as chanting, such as prostrating, such as offering lamps. So all different ways of planting good roots or cultivate merits. There was a story that Shariputra met someone who came to him to get ordained. So Shariputra, through his luminous power, he saw that this person didn't really have any good roots planted from his past lives. Throughout his 500 lifetimes, and 500 arhats all observed him and realized that this person doesn't have good roots to be ordained and to become a monastic. And this person then went to the Buddha. The Buddha agreed to let him get ordained. All the arhats were stunned, and they asked the Buddha, "Well, I don't see any good roots that he planted to be ordained in this lifetime." And then the Buddha said, "Well, in fact, through my numinous power, I'll be able to see that this person had indeed planted a good root. Because in the numinous kalpas ago, this person was wood chipper, and while he was in the forest, there was a tiger who chased him, and at that time he got so frightened and had great devotion towards the Buddha, and he then said that Namo Buddha. By shouting Namo Buddha at that time, his good root is now matured. And this person, although who is already 80 years old, after he got ordained, he then attained arhathood. The Buddha then continuously to say that a foolish person cannot see gold inside a rock, but a wise person would be able to see the gold inside a rock. Similarly, in a mundane person, only a wise man could see if a person has a good root to be ordained or not, to have liberation or not. After a day, so day after tomorrow, we'll resume our class on Uttara Tantra Shastra. I know many people do not understand Uttara Tantra Shastra, but I so encourage you to listen to it, because it is such a pity if you don't listen to it. The teaching, yes, it is difficult, and it talks about the third turning of the wheel, and it talks about how every sentient being has Buddha nature. I know not many people are listening to it because it's difficult, but I really hope the ones who've already started listening to this, I really hope that you continuously to persevere and listen, and what I notice over here is that although people have lots of pressure from listening to Uttara Tantra Shastra because it's difficult, therefore they prepare a lot before class. This is really wonderful. I know that your time is tight, but if you have such opportunity, if you have such pressure to listen to the Dharma, it is really beneficial to you. Especially since now we have this opportunity to listen to the precious Dharma, you should seize this opportunity and listen to it. Let's look at this 80-year-old man who got ordained and attained arhathood. He only chanted Namo Buddha once numerous kalpas ago, and that good root, that merit matured, and he attained arhathood. This is very little good root that you plant, such as offering water, offering flower, and chant and recitation, and so on. All of those are very tiny. You can do it very quickly, but those kind of good root will get matured. And especially now we have the good conditions to accumulate such wonderful, extensive good merits and good roots. I really want to finish a lot, but I'm not sure if I will be able to finish it. Not only we're not going to finish it early, we probably will extend the class. Are you tired when you're listening to class?
累吗？
Yes? Really? All right.
下面就是讲的是第
And then the seventh.
7个吧，是吧？就是第7个有为法。就是说只常按
It is for one's intent to always be on peaceful abiding, and one skillful means rededicate to Anattara Samyak Sambodhi. To peacefully abide on the aspiration.
这样的发愿恒常安住的话呢，那么就是
and rededicate to the Anattara Samyak Sambodhi after they conducted the actions. So all the good activities that they conducted after making aspiration, they will continuously to then rededicate the merit. And not only that they would rededicate, they would also abide in their aspiration and not give up halfway through. Let's talk about the importance of rededication. Pipasara was he imprisoned his son, and that time his son, through a hole of his prison at that time, saw a Buddha statue, and at that time he felt really joyful and tearful. And then he died after out of hunger. And originally he was after death, because of the merit of seeing the merit of the Buddha, he was able to be reborn in the Tushita heaven, but which is the third level of heaven. And then he smelled some really fragrant, delicious food that's cooked in the first level of the four great gods, and he was really attracted to it and then reborn in the first level of heaven instead. Anyhow, it is it seems such a menial thing to have a sense of joy when you see the Buddha's statue or picture of it. But when you have such joy and then rededicate to it, the merit comes from it is immeasurable. Every day we chant the dedication chantings such as the aspiration of Samatha Vajra and some short rededication chants. So this is really wonderful. But it is really important to continuously to do it, especially during the time of death. For people who've made great mistakes during the whole lifetime, if you could have just one glimpse of good heart and kindness at the time of death, you'll be able to reborn in 3 higher realms. But for people who practice good actions for their whole lifetime, but at the time of death they then made the aspiration or rededication of evil deeds, then at that time they will be reborn in the 3 lower realms. So it's quite important to readjust your mind to the good Dharma so that you'll be able to reborn in the 3 higher realms. So you should make good aspiration to then complete your life in a good way. The next one talks about, which is the eighth one, it is to seek the Dharma without tiring. You have to have diligence when pursuing and seek the Dharma. I really see that people have lots of diligence to pursue the Dharma teachings, especially listening to classes and so on. It is important that you should seek for the Dharma that is not only from one stream. You should seek for the Mahayana Dharma, you should seek for the Tantrayana Dharma, and so on. And during the course of it, you should seek the Dharma and go through some hardship to seek for the Dharma. Of course, you're not inflicting harm to yourself to create such a situation. But when there's a hardship during the course of seeking the Dharma, you should endure it. After we learned the journey of Master Fa Xian, who went to the foreign countries at the age of 65, he visited over 30 countries over there, and then he stayed in different countries for 14 years and studied different languages. So this is quite inspiring. Unlike us, at the age of 50, lots of us feel that it's really not a time for us to study any new languages anymore, isn't it? So for those of you, if you go to Tibet, if you go to mainland, if you go to different places, then you should really seek the Dharma. Do not waste your time there. Otherwise, you will end up with not much. Maybe you have not finished your nonzhou, you did not finish the studying, and you did not really finish your volunteering work very well, and had lots of fights and indifferences with the people around you. So that's, at the end, if you spend your time like that, then at the end you won't be able to gain anything through such experiences of studying in different places to pursue for the Dharma. Now I think it's quite important that it is quite convenient that now we have the skillful means of technological advancement. You can study at home. And this kind of condition is not really that common in the past. And let's look at Ponsab Rinpoche, who went to Shichu area and studied for 6 years, and he studied so many dharmas. He received so many dharmas. Let's look at us, who maybe spent 6 years in different places, and then what kind of dharma have you learned? You should really look into yourself. It is to seek the Dharma without tiring, and then explain the Dharma without parsimony, without any stinginess. In mainland, there is a saying, especially according to the Confucian doctrine, they say that if you teach your disciples really well, then the teacher will lose the trade of their livelihood. But in Buddhism, we don't say that. In Buddhism, we would pour the knowledge to the disciple completely, like pouring the water from the vase. So over here it says that to explain the Dharma without parsimony. In the Nagarjuna's commentarial treatise on the 10 Ground Sutra, it says that wherever a bodhisattva dwells, yet it does not strive to enlighten living beings nearby, these beings would end up in 3 lower realms. The bodhisattvas would receive severe reprehension from all Buddhas. The bodhisattvas, if they have the opportunity to benefit sentient beings, then they will try their best to go out their ways to try to help all sentient beings. Otherwise, they will receive severe reprehension from the Buddhas. The teacher, Dharma teacher, also would give all the teachings to his disciple without holding onto the knowledge that they have. In Tibetan Buddhism, we say in Tibetan language it is beiche. It is holding the language in their, holding the knowledge in their hand, without giving the whole knowledge to the students. So that's something that we should avoid. Therefore, I really encourage all the students to explain all the Dharma without parsimony to your students. Do not be afraid of the disciples would then learn all the pith instructions and abandon the teacher. Ponsogren Rinpoche said that no matter what, I won't have stinginess towards teaching the Dharma. There are teachers who only give some pith instructions to a very small group of people, but I don't have such habits. So do not get stingy. Do not hide the Dharma that you've received. This is quite important. Especially now. There is a sutra. It says that if you have stinginess towards giving the Dharma, then for lifetimes you will fall into, you will be reborn as the beings without perfect faculty of speech and hearing. So whenever you have the opportunity, you should give the Dharma and explain the Dharma without parsimony. And the 10th one talks about enthusiastically and energetically make offering to the Buddhas. To enthusiastically make offering. Or according to other translations, it also translated in the way of offering as well as seeing the Buddha statues or the Buddha image. To make offering to the Buddha, it generates great merits. We can make offering, make the materialistic offering, or we could visualize that. There are different types of making Dharma offerings. The first one is benefiting sentient beings, the second one magnetizing beings, third one undertaking being suffering, and then cultivating virtuous roots and not abandoning the activities of bodhisattva, and the offering of not departing of bodhicitta. So within the Dharma offering, which is the best kind of offering, there are 7 types of offering. The 11th one says, by doing so, one will willingly enter into samsara without fear. Samshen, which means willingly enter into samsara without any fear.
这个是好像是那个注释里面就是下面讲了7种性，就是
In one of the commentaries,
勇猛性啊，就是
it says that the following part talks about the 7 kinds of mind. The first one, which is this one, without fear, it talks about the mind of courageousness. The 12th one says, be without sadness or joy regarding the various honors and disgrace, whatever wealth and fame that you can receive, or whatever poverty and shame that you receive, your mind is constantly at a sense of equanimity. There is no sadness nor joy because of different situations. So you have this mind that is unwavering, just as according to Taigen it says that not disturbed by prosperity or adversity. I witness a blossom and wither of a flower, and not minding staying or living. I watch the gathering and dispersing of clouds. It talks more from the Confucius aspect, Confucian doctrine's perspective. In Buddhism, when we see withering and when we see blossoming, in fact, we don't have the mind that goes up and down. We have a rather peaceful mind. And this kind of mind is the mind of not moving. The 13th one talks about not belittle the unlearned. In the Tang version, Tang translation, it is separated, but over here I think we'll see it as one quality, is not belittle the unlearned and revere the learned as if they're Buddhas, if they're teachers. Do not belittle the ones who are beginners. When Ponso Rinpoche, during his time of studying, he was a newcomer, and the monastics over there, they really belittled him. And at that time, and Ponso Rinpoche said, yes, we're beginners, so you must be bodhisattvas who attained bhumis, because those monastics really belittled them. So Ponso Rinpoche then said that, oh, you must be first bhumi bodhisattva to judge us in such a way. And the other monastics didn't respond to that. They were speechless. We all had the period of time where we were beginners. Maybe they were. Maybe it was the first time that they participate in the presentation. Do not belittle them. And you should revere the learned as if they are teachers like Buddhas. You should not then generate the mind of jealousy or the mind of grasping or greed towards them. So this one talks about the mind of devoid of arrogance. The 14th one said, cause those who have fallen into the afflictions to generate correct mindfulness. This is the mind of consoling or guiding others. There are people who have great afflictions. And when you see such sentient beings, you should use right mindfulness to guide them to work with their affliction so that they'll then be liberated from their negative thoughts. There are some leaders and some managers who are very good at consoling others. Whenever they see that there are people who are upset, who are depressed, then they will drive to them right away and try to talk to them and guide them out of it, guide them out of the darkness in that period of time, and then they would feel really grateful towards them. In different time period of our lives, you may be suffering, and it's difficult for others to see it, especially in this age when the pervasive sickness is the mental sickness. It says that in last century it was cancer that killed many people, and in this century it is the mental sickness that killed lots of people. But now I think Buddhism really provides comfort and happiness to lots of people. Many people told me that I really think Buddhism have saved me, because without Buddhism, I'm not alive this day. Therefore, we should try our best to help these kind of sentient beings. The 15th one says, enjoy transcend pleasure, but not dwelling in it. Distancing. In this translation, it says distantly. In Tibetan language, Wenba could mean distant, or it could mean transcendence, pleasure, or in peace, in transcendent peace. This is one way of explaining it. And in this literary translation over here, it says distantly transcend to pleasure and not consider it valuable. Do not consider it as the most valuable or important thing in their life. And they do not dwell with the kind of liberation of Shravakas and Pratika Buddhas. We often say that we want to practice alone, we want to get into retreats, and this is really not the most valuable. What's the most valuable then? The most valuable is to benefit all sentient beings. And this one is the mind of following or not giving up the conditioned. The next one says not be attached to one's own pleasure, yet celebrate the pleasure of others. That's the 16th. Not only dwell or attach to one's own pleasure, but you would then generate sympathetic joy towards other people's pleasure. You're not looking for the happiness, not pursuing for the happiness of yourself, but the only aspiration of bodhisattvas is to hope that all sentient beings could be devoid of suffering. When bodhisattvas see others suffering, it is as if they were suffering. When bodhisattvas see others being happy, it is as if they were happy. This is from Treatise of a Courageous Man. But look at mundane beings. We are completely not like that. What we do is that when we see other people suffering, we feel happy, and when we see other people happy, we feel jealous, isn't it? So we're completely different than the bodhisattvas. In the Xuanzang's translation, I think it is then separated into two sentences. The first one is not to attach to one's pleasure. That's the one of that is considered as the mind of devoid of defilement. And then the next one, celebrate the pleasure of others, is the mind of rejoice. So those are the 7 minds. The 17th view. The view being in dhyana is like being in the hills. Some Sangha member would say that I can abide in meditation for an hour. I can abide half an hour in the morning, half hour at night. And according to this, then you are abiding in hell realm for an hour every day. Anyhow, it is said like that. It is because the bodhisattvas do not dwell in any dhyanas or samadhi or any kind of those kind of blissful experiences, because their main goal is to benefit sentient beings, and they do not dwell in any of this pleasant experience of samadhi. The 18th one, it says that have a view being in samsara is like being in garden of pavilion. Why should we view being in meditation as in hell realm? It is said that when you're dwelling in meditative state, just like arhats, they do not want to get out of that meditative state, just like those drunkards. When you ask them to do something, they can't really fulfill the activity at all. I really like this metaphor. The drunkard, the arhats are like the drunkard, because they will constantly then fall back into the meditative state. So that's why bodhisattvas should not dwell in this pleasant meditative state. Rather, they should go out and help sentient beings. In prosperity or in poverty, they do not dwell at all. The bodhisattvas reborn in samsara just as they are wandering in a garden or a pavilion. When I went to Africa, I felt it was really good, and I really wanted to send a group of the Dharma masters to Africa for 5 years. I really thought about that, but would they survive after 5 years? Maybe some of them would then die within 5 years. But if you die because of disseminating the Dharma, then I think it's still quite auspicious. And if you do pass away in Africa, we can build you a small stupa on the great plateau of Africa. One will view that whomsoever come to make request is like seeing an excellent teacher. There was a story. It said that a king went out the city, and then there were 1,000 beggars begging. And a minister said that, these beggars want to request you for something, ask you for something. the king was quite wise. He said, no, no, no. All these thousands, these 1,000 beggars are my teacher because they're teaching me. And the minister was thoroughly confused, saying that, how are they teaching you? And then the king said that all of these beggars, they used to be kings in their previous lives. And during their time of being king, they were quite stingy. They didn't practice the generosity. Therefore, they are teaching me that I should practice generosity. Otherwise, in my later times, I will also become beggars. Therefore, all these beggars are my teachers. This is the teaching that they give me. So it's hard to say.
然后这是这样的，就是听懂了吧，对吧？
Did you understand that story?
这个大宝积经里面
In the Sutra of the Heap of Jewels, it says that seeing a beggar approaching, regard him as the Buddha and consider his coming as a bestowal on my path to Buddhahood. You should see the beggar as someone who's giving you a teaching. We don't see beggars like that habitually, isn't it? When we see beggars, we would ask, go away. Not only beggars. In fact, anyone who's asking us for something, we should treat all of them as good teachers. Because there are people who want this or that thing from you, and they're all your teachers. The 20th, it says that view forsaking one's various possessions is to be replete in omniscience. Your body, forsaking your body, and your children, all of those is not to obtain any other jewels, but to attain omniscience, to attain Buddhahood. If you've read the extensive biography of the Buddha, then you remember that the Buddha had offered his children his body many times, and his objection is not to obtain anything else, rather Buddhahood. This is his only aspiration. View transgressor is to generate salvic protection. Whenever you see someone who is a transgressor of vows, do not see them as untouchables, that I should not get close to him. Rather, you should then generate the view, you should have the view that you should help them. In the Sangha, if you have a transgressor, there is no way for mandamis to save them, but only bodhisattvas could save them. In the Sutra of Heap of Jewels, it has a story of Bibasara. The king Bibasara says that said to the king, saying that in your group you have some transgressors who are not allowed to share a meal and even sit within your great assembly. Then this is not reasonable. And then the king asked then the Buddha asked the king back, saying that while you have lots of criminals who've conducted activities which violated the law, do you then invite them to your feast, to your parties? For the great criminals, would you invite them to your own feasts? The king said, no, definitely not. They violated my law. They violated my rules. Why should I invite them? So the Buddha said that similarly, if someone who's already transgressed the root vow he already then committed serious violation, then that person should not then be with the Sangha anymore. A person who's already violated the root vow, they should not have the opportunity to be with the Sangha. But this is within the Sangha, this is within the monastic Sangha. This should not be discussed and intervened by the lay practitioners. Lots of professors, lots of teachers from academic background, they would study the vows and they would study the monastic vows as part of their study. But this is wrong because there's a whole universe between different professions. You should not use the academic way from a lay practitioner's point of view to judge the monastic sanghas. If they study the vows, this is not reasonable for a lay practitioner to study and research the monastic vows. I know a female professor from Harvard. I met her in 1993 and 2013. She's a feminist, and she kept on insisting that in Tibet you had to revive the bhikkhuni tradition, and she kept on insisting that. Of course, she said that out of kindness. She kept on saying that you have to revive it. Why don't you find 20 people and then get the vow? This is really fast. You should do it right away. I said that there are historical backgrounds, there are reasons behind it. I replied saying that I'm very grateful to your care, and but I really think that this is within our monastic Sangha. Recently, there's this incident that happened in Inner Mongolia where a group of lay practitioners got really involved with the monastic's vows. The monastic Sangha should then manage the monastic Sangha, and lay practitioner Sangha should manage the lay practitioner Sangha. I think for monastic Sangha, the lay practitioners shouldn't intervene with their business. You could then write or report, but you should not intervene, especially slander the monastic Sanghas. Let it be with reason or without reason, because that could create great negative karma for you, and you would have to suffer with that. In Tibet, we say that there are people who try to save others but eventually drowned in the river themselves. Some incidents happen because of jealousy between groups to group, and between people to people. They might then slander. And then there are people who then use words such as, oh, this is she is a consort, or he is a yogi, and use such kind of hidden words to try to slander Buddhism. And some try to use media, and some try to use very straightforward slandering words. So my suggestion to this group of people is that you should spend your time and energy in studying contemplation and practicing the Dharma rather than getting involved with things that you shouldn't. You should be responsible to your own words and actions. In this special time, it's very difficult to say your words would be beneficial or harmful to Dharma, to Buddhism. So, for the lay practitioners, do not get involved with lots of things. Otherwise, you might get you might get trouble because of your own action. You might create trouble for yourself. It's quite important to determine where your boundary is. And then the next one says that view paramita being one's parents, the 6 paramitas. You should view them as one's parents, because parents are the ones who brought you into this world. And in order to attain the Tathagata's Dharma, you have to attain it through the 6 paramitas. The 23rd is view 37 factors of enlightenment being one's subordinates. The 37 factors are the path to enlightenment, therefore you should view it as the subordinates. And the 24th one is one's generation and practices and planting good roots, planting merits, will be limitless. Do not get really content by performing or conducting just a small number or generating small number of merits, just as practicing Nongzhou and that's it. Do not have such kind of contentment of generating only a little bit of good roots. And the 25th one is that one will create one's own Buddha land with the various ornaments of the pure countries of different Buddhas. Which means all the beautiful ornaments of Pure Land, of Sukhavati, Pure Land, we should then take that as a reference, and then we should make aspiration of building Pure Land just like that. It doesn't mean that we should go to Sukhavati and get all of their ornaments and you started building your own Pure Land. It's not like that. Rather you should then try to remember and try to take reference of how the other Buddha's Pure Lands are, and then when you are building your own Pure Land, you should try to build it in such a way as well. I think we should then try to be diligent and read different people's biography. I read someone's diary where it says that, oh, today I really want to study. And then the second day he wrote that in his diary, I spent my day in poker, and then third day poker, and then after that poker, and after that it's all playing. So we should really be diligent of studying all the masters rather than wasting our time. Okay, we'll stop here.